Thank you for joining us for The Drive Back, the movie podcast where we imitate our favorite thing to do after a movie, which is to talk about it on the ride home. My name is Garrett, and of course, I'm joined by my good friend and co host Adrian.
Hey, hey.
And today, we're going to have a discussion on a topic that is actually quite fascinating to us, which is the idea of fan theories and whether or not they hurt or make films. So, all of this and more coming up on The Drive Back. Alrighty, so a discussion on the idea of fan theories and whether or not they hurt or make films. Let's just go ahead and dive right into it, Adrian. When you
Sure.
think of fan theories, like, I guess for those of us listening who don't really know what a fan theory is, why don't you explain it?
Sure. So fan theories are something that they've always been around. They've kind of always been there, but with the internet and just kind of the speed of information now, fan theories catch like wildfire. So a fan theory could basically be anything. A movie is either already out or it might be coming out in the future, and somebody on the internet proposes something they think could be in the movie, or a connection that is in the movie that was not very obvious. And in this day and age, people love those theories, and they spread across the internet, and tons of videos get made about them prior to a movie coming out. And while fan theories can be very fun, I kind of want to talk about whether in the long run they're good or bad. And then I have a couple here of fan theories that I just wanted to run by you that are not confirmed official, but
Okay.
that are definitely held in regard by certain communities that I think are just a little interesting. So I wanted to get your immediate reaction on those.
Sure.
But I think I wanted to start out with some things that I guess the bad is what I'd like to start out with, and things that are notoriously bad, something a lot of people are familiar with, which is the Star Wars fan theories, specifically in The Last Jedi and the entire debacle that came from that.
Yes.
So to preface this conversation is we basically had 2 years before Star Wars Last Jedi came out, and in that 2 years between the two, fan theories ran completely amok. There were people that had basically gone so deep into lore, saying there's no way they couldn't do this. The entire world believed The Last Jedi was going to be a certain type of film. And the movie that came out, while arguably and critically good, was not up to the fans' expectations by any measure because of the fan theories. So, Garrett, I know we've talked a lot about this. Do you have anything that you want to say to kind of start out on your opinions of these fan theories?
I'll start specifically just with Last Jedi. I think that a lot of fans really do miss the point with Last Jedi. I don't think that it is a perfect movie by any stretch, but I do think that it is a noble attempt at making Star Wars feel different. And
Yeah.
but the problem lies in the fan theories. The fan theories were rampant, like you said, for the Last Jedi.
Everywhere.
They were stating things like, characters were going to return and all this stuff was going to happen, and it just didn't. Because people were so set on this is what is going to happen that when it didn't, they felt disappointed and that the movie was terrible because of an idea that they had created in their head. And notably, there is a huge Star Wars theory YouTuber, I don't remember which channel it is, that actually apologized when the movie came out for getting people's
I remember
hype
that.
up too much. And you do start to notice a lot of the theories tapered off for the
Rise of Skywalker.
Skywalker. They really came back with a huge flurry though with the Mandalorian, but I feel like every kind of twist or reveal was still exciting to those people, because there was a lot of people who were like, "Oh, Mace Windu's going to come back and get Grogu," or all these different things, and it's like, I don't think so.
Yeah, 100%.
But
I think it was really, really crazy. And I also think that the main problem, there's a lot of positives to fan theories and kind of some fun stuff, but one of the main problems I see with it is that that viewers now, with the age of the internet and being so able to reach out to famous people and directors and the people that actually make the movies, there's this weird sense of ownership that fan communities have now garnered for films. And I don't know how we can stop that moving forward. Like all these people that watched The Last Jedi felt like they deserved a different movie. And I don't know where that feeling comes from just because there's theories out there. What do you think?
Um, I agree that there is this kind of ownership that the fans take, and I think it's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because when it's a good thing, you get fan followings and cultures and groups that are incredibly powerful in a positive way.
Sure.
And you just have people who share a common passion, but when that passion takes over, and you forget the fact that, like in Star Wars' case, that was Ryan Johnson's vision, and you have to respect
Yeah.
it. It was his movie, not yours. At the end of the day,
Exactly.
and that's just about with any case now. And you have to remember now too that we're also in this age where these big films like Star Wars: The Last Jedi, or more recently, not that it's a bad by any stretch, but like Godzilla versus Kong, movies now are being made by people who are the fans of these things, and for better or for worse, it shows. But again, when it comes to like these, this ownership, it is a negative thing too. The fans think that it's their thing, and they are the ones that have control of it when they don't. They're not
At
the
all.
ones that work at Lucasfilm making the story up. They're not the ones that work at any of these other companies, or they're not writers. If they are, it's fan fiction, and arguably it's not good fan fiction either. Most of the time, but it is incredibly damaging. And striding that that gray area in the middle is the Snyder cut for me, which I think is
sure
positive and negative for the power that fans have. So,
I think that definitely set a precedent.
Yeah,
and I also wanted to talk about the fan theory. So the fact that The Last Jedi got reamed so heavily, while arguably also being a critically okay film, I think it actually, in my personal opinion, ruined the third installment of that trilogy, because they re-switched directors back to J.J. Abrams because the fans were so upset.
Well, no, what happened with that was it was originally Colin Trevorrow,
Yes,
who was the director of Jurassic World, and he was acting like too much of a diva apparently, and was fired. And at the last minute, they had to bring back J.J. Abrams.
Okay, so they had to.
It's also just a damage control choice because Force Awakens is arguably the best movie of the trilogy, and I would say it's the best.
I would agree.
But and he was the one that did it, so obviously it's the right choice to bring him.
That does
back.
make sense. But what it caused to happen, because the backlash is these things that are still considered canon by any timeline in the Star Wars universe had to be retconned in the third installment. They basically went back on a ton of things that they talked about in The Last Jedi.
The one specifically that I know you're talking about is regarding Luke, right?
Yes.
So I don't think that's a retcon at all.
Oh, interesting.
I actually think it's an evolution of the character. He realizes he's wrong at the end of The Last Jedi. He does.
Yeah.
Go back and watch it. And since then, he's probably had more time to talk with Yoda or Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon or someone else.
Anyone else there, yeah.
And continue to realize he was wrong. And that's where it ended up. I could talk blue in the face about how Last Jedi is actually a good interpretation.
I agree with you. Yeah. I agree. And then I also wanted to talk, this might be controversial because Marvel is relatively untouchable, but can you think of any fan theories that have come out about Marvel? I know that there were a couple for WandaVision that you felt were a little bit disappointing that they didn't happen.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute.
Well, let's get to it now.
Yeah, it actually... So, what happened with fans and Star Wars The Last Jedi happened with me and WandaVision. Because... and I'm still mad about it. There is no reason that Doctor Strange should not have been... He should have been there at the end. He should have been in it. But
I'm not sure why. Have they come out with an official reason why not?
No, I think it was like time and scheduling stuff that was
just
going on.
Didn't work out. Yeah.
But at the same time, like the writer was like, that would have been a really good idea, actually. It's like, why? How did you not think of that?
That's like what everyone wanted.
It's supposed to tie directly into Multiverse of Madness.
Well, and I think that was a big thing, too, where everyone was suspecting that Mephisto would show up and all of these things, which actually was discussed that was the original plan, but due to COVID, they had to do all kinds of different storytelling and everything, and that had to be kind of annexed.
I don't know. I think relying on a big villain like Mephisto that early is kind of a weak pick. I think
Just banking on something huge.
I think choosing Agatha was a better choice story wise.
So maybe it worked out, but originally he was supposed to be in it.
It'll also tie into Multiverse of Madness as well, I think.
Sure.
But as far as Marvel other theories go, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to Spider-Man at some point. But there's not really any fan theories. I mean, there were some about Endgame that said that like Ultron would show up and fight Thanos, which was like kind of throwaway theories. No one really believed it.
I don't remember there being any super concrete, like, oh my gosh, that's definitely going to happen, theories for Endgame or anything like that.
And I think that besides Spider-Man, which we'll talk about, I think that Marvel has has set themselves in a way that fans don't know what to expect, and they're okay with that.
Yeah.
Because they trust Marvel. Marvel hasn't made a bad decision in quite a while, I would say, since Dark World.
There's been, less good decisions, but none of them are terrible decisions.
No, yeah. Like,
I just consider those bad ones, or quote bad ones, just slight missteps. And they're just not exactly
by all the amazing choices. So,
yeah, you get, 2 bad movies, or 2 okay movies in 24 films. It's not bad. It's not a bad record.
3 okay movies, I would say.
Yeah.
But
the big one that I did want that you just teased a little bit, but the fan theory for Spider-Man, the 3rd installment. What is the official title? No Way Home. I almost said Far From Home, which is the second one. Mm-hmm. The fan theory that is still persistent through all the people saying no, is that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, the other 2 Spider-Mans from the alternate timelines of Spider-Man, will show up in this movie. Yes. Directors and everyone has kind of come out and said that is not the case. No one is officially signed on for the movie, but fans are still believing that it will happen.
Yes, and fans have become so convinced that it is all but confirmed. And
even though they've outright said no.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I don't think they're in it. I think that, Tom Holland is the kind of guy that would spoil the living crap out of that.
Yeah.
Right? And they asked him. They said, "Are Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in the movie?" And he said, "If they are, that they are keeping a huge secret from me." So, and I'm sure
that's not a no.
It's not a no, but he, as far as he knows, they're not in it. Which, if they're in the movie, he's gonna talk to him at some point. So
you'd think
it doesn't make
here's
sense.
You just said that. Here's my thought process. He goes through some sort of like time wormhole thing or whatever, and he turns into them, and they act completely on their own. And then at the end of that sequence, he turns back into Tom Holland, Spider-Man. Hey, I'm holding out hope. I'm one of those. I'm excited for it, but I will say that my expectations are tempered, because if it doesn't happen, I'll still be okay. And I think that is the thing that Marvel has gotten a reign on that Star Wars never did, which is that Star Wars let people run wild, and what they delivered was not the best. And Marvel can subvert those expectations and still surprise people and give them a fantastic movie, while not just directly following the fan theories.
Yeah, and there's 2 things I want to point out about Spider-Man. Number one is that the fan theories are so ingrained right now. There is one channel that I watch on YouTube occasionally that has become so addicted to the idea that they're going to be in there, and they keep putting out plot leak details and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I can't watch it anymore because I know they're going to be disappointed. If the movie comes out and the fans don't like it, and it's just because the theories were wrong, I guarantee a Last Jedi thing could happen.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I guarantee that if it comes out and they're not in it, you're going to see fans get really angry. But
for no reason, I want to clarify, for no reason. Someone just made that up, and
absolutely,
it didn't happen, and they're mad about it.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing is, I mean, there is a fan theory that I do subscribe to for the movie, and that's the fact that Peter Parker is going to have to go through some sort of legal trouble, and it's either going to be Daredevil or She-Hulk that represents him. And that's
okay.
That'll be the introduction of Daredevil into the MCU from the show, because Charlie Cox, I'm sure, wants to keep playing Daredevil, Or Tatiana Maslany's She-Hulk, which is getting her own series,
Yes.
will show up in the movie. We already know that Doctor Strange is in the movie. That
Yeah.
was confirmed.
Yep.
And which means that the multiverse is going to play some effect in it.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of follows suit.
That's getting into theories and conjecture, but
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I think it's important, and what I want to say before kind of continuing on to some fun fan theories or things that were very interesting, is that fan theories aren't the root of the problem. It's the ownership that comes from these fan theories that are the problem. People need to let creators create works of art. You don't get to say whether Picasso's painting is good or not before it comes out, and then when it's not the colors you wanted it to be, say it's bad. That's not how art works. The art is something someone makes and then they show to the world. And if you don't like it, that's okay, but don't base it off of previous expectations that you may or may not have had.
Yeah, and the thing that I found is that it's always the fan theories that are the most damaging, that are the ones that I would like to see go away, are the ones that happen before a movie comes out.
Yes.
And the fun ones, I'm sure you're going to talk about, are the ones that are after the movie's been released, and the ones that fans come up with to try and explain something, and then that's when the directors and stuff get in on it, and they enjoy those theories.
Yes. So speaking of, I wanted to dive kind of right into fan theories that were thought of after the movie came out, and then confirmed by the director or producers or staff on the movie, or writers of the books or anything. So the first one that actually came after the movie was that in these are going to be massive spoilers, by the way, for any of these following films that I'm going to talk about. But so for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, The Tale of the Three Brothers, when they showed that, everyone speculated that it was Voldemort, Harry Potter, and Dumbledore were the three brothers by, like, association, I guess, in terms of personality and what they were going for.
Okay.
So that was a big theory that came out, and that was confirmed. Another one was from the movie Prometheus, and that is that Jesus Christ was an engineer visiting Earth, and that has been confirmed by Ridley Scott.
That was confirmed because it was a deleted scene that was originally supposed to be in the movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. No, that was official before the movie even came out, because they had filmed a scene of an engineer, or they had filmed it or conceptualized it, but it was like just adding this whole other plot point to the movie that would have been
opening confusing. A can of worms. Yeah.
No, it just would have been confusing with the story that was already in place.
Oh, interesting.
But I love that theory. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think about that? Because I think that, I mean, it totally makes sense to me.
Well, it's confirmed.
I mean, that's very interesting. And then another one that happened afterwards was, have you seen Frozen?
Yes.
Okay. That Frozen and Tarzan take place in the same universe?
Yes.
That was a really big one.
Because
do you know it? Go ahead.
Tarzan is the child of the parents of Anna and Elsa, after they crash landed on the island, because the ship got lost at sea in Frozen, and they said that the ship showed up on the island in Tarzan. Although I don't know if the timelines line up, because
they have confirmed that it is. I haven't researched the timeline, but they have confirmed that it is true.
Have confirmed it, but which is weird because Frozen takes place almost more like I don't want to stay a specific time period, but more medieval.
I would agree. Yeah.
Whereas like Tarzan is like they're like colonial outfits, and they have firearms, which they don't have in Frozen, which is a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, there could be something right with the storm that they went through some sort of time port. I mean, who knows? Pixar can come up with anything.
Well,
but another thing that was with Frozen is that I believe the parents from Tangled are also featured in the movie as well. So that was also discovered and then confirmed.
No, it was the parents from Tangled.
It was the couple.
It was Rapunzel and the.
It was her and yeah.
Yeah.
So they were also in it. And then another one that I thought was really interesting that you may or may not have heard is about the movie Spirited Away, one of your favorites.
Yes.
And this may be very obvious, but it is that. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know the theory, actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, maybe I'll just ask if you know the theory about the movie before I tell you.
Sure.
So it is that the entire movie is basically I don't know what the word would be, but a reflection of the Asian sex industry. And that it is basically an allegory for like this. It's basically a case study and kind of like a representation of that life and trying to get out of it by imagining all these spirits and things like that. Because some of the terms and the titles they use directly correlate to like the one who bathes men or the one who washes and stuff in sex houses.
I don't know if I agree with that. Just
It's
based on
confirmed.
it's confirmed.
Yeah.
I I would like to see how, because that does not feel like something that Hayao Miyazaki would make his story around.
I like to imagine he went to a bathhouse and was like, "This is pretty awesome," and then wrote a whole movie about it.
Like, I'm gonna go to a bathhouse. All right, let's do a kids movie based off this.
He probably did like some sort of drug and saw ghosts, and then was like, "I gotta write a movie."
I don't know about that one.
Another one is that all Quentin Tarantino movies. Do you know the?
Yeah, they all take place in the same universe.
Yes, and he has confirmed that as well. The timelines do line up vaguely, but very, very cool. So that turned out to be true.
The biggest piece of proof is that the same cigarette brand is in all the movies.
Yeah, that's like his little Easter egg. Another one is from the movie Blade Runner. Have you seen it yet?
I have seen most of it. Yes, I have. I actually have to sit down and watch most of it still.
Then I might not want to talk about this fan theory that ended up being correct. So my last fan theory that ended up being correct that fans kind of thought about, this one was more of a long term, not related to one single film, but it has to do with Stan Lee. Do you know what that fan theory is?
It's something to do with him being an informant for the Watcher.
That he is a Watcher. So people kind of started speculating kind of in the beginning of the films when he was kind of first showing up. And then it was confirmed in Ragnarok, I believe, in a post-credit scene where he is seen sitting with the Watchers. And kind of the whole idea is that the Watchers in Marvel are an ancient alien race that are only allowed to observe things happening. They aren't allowed to interfere at all. And that kind of totally fits with Stan Lee's character, that he's always there, but he has no impact on the story whatsoever. Gotcha. And that turned out to be true. But people thought about that around the second Iron Man, and then it wasn't until like 6 years later that they confirmed, which to me, I think was Marvel just doing a little bit of fan service because it made so much sense.
Yeah, and I think having
like, why
the
not?
creator of everything being a Watcher is just a smart choice as well.
Exactly. I think it totally all lines up.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to talk, my third section here is about fan theories that are more just fun, and I would like to see if you think we can kind of connect them, or I want to see if you believe them or not. I'd like to kind of interview you.
Sure. Do any of them have to do with Get Out?
No.
Because I actually have a couple from Get Out. There was a video that Jordan Peele made reacting to fan theories.
I remember this video, yeah. Go ahead.
There's a couple from here. The first one, the big one is that the only one that I really wanted to talk about is that it's what's called the Rod theory. If for those, you've seen Get Out, right?
Yeah.
So Rod is the main.
We saw it together.
No, we didn't. I watched it at home.
Oh, fair enough.
Unless you were there with me, Adrian. I don't think you were.
You don't know. Fan theory, I was.
He's always there. But the fan theory states that Rod, who is the TSA agent, that this entire story is taking place in his imagination, and he gets to be the hero at the end that saves his friend.
Yes.
Which I think is just a completely... Jordan Peele said it's 100% false, but it's amazing.
Yeah, but isn't there actually an alternate ending of the film that was original where he doesn't save him or something like that?
There was, yeah.
But yeah, I remember that fan theory, and because it's one of those ones that just makes so much sense that it could have been, but it's almost like too creative and too elaborate for someone to come up with while making the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
But I love that one. And there's so many for Get Out. If you ever want to look into them, there's like people went crazy on that movie. Same with Us, actually, his second film. Yeah. A lot of people went crazy on that one too. So the first one has to do. I'm going to tell you the two movies, and I want to see if you can piece together this connection. Okay. So the first movie is E.T., and the second movie is Star Wars.
Oh yeah, the E.T. aliens showed up in the Senate sequence.
But that's not the fan theory. The fan theory is that the kid from E.T. was actually being targeted to be a Jedi Knight and didn't pass the test.
What? No!
And apparently, if you watch E.T. back with that mindset, a lot of like the odd things the alien does seem like odd tests and stuff that are being done. And apparently, I have not confirmed this, but it lines up pretty well if you go in with that mindset. So that's a great one that I love. I think that makes it better.
Okay.
I got to watch it again with that. The other one is pretty relevant to us, that Marty McFly from Back to the Future in the second film, Back to the Future Part 2, actually dies twice in the movie. And this has to do, it's not shown on screen or anything, but it has to do with the fact that there are two parts where Marty McFly saves himself by intervening. That means that he must have died, and Doc went back in time again to basically recorrect a timeline so that Marty doesn't die.
I feel like that's reading too much into it, but I like it.
Sure. Yeah, and I have to watch the two parts. Yeah, I don't think it was intentional. I think that's just it's very fun to think about, and I have to watch it again. I mean, I just watched them, but I was not looking for undeveloped death plots in the movie, so that's something that I will have to look at. Another fan theory that I think is just kind of interesting is that Wally is that he is actually pure evil because he forces all the humans to get kicked out of their ship, which is basically paradise for them. They live a life of ease and comfort, and that by him basically bringing them back to Earth ruins their lives because now they have to walk again and basically survive again.
I'm just gonna say no on that one.
Well, none of these fan theories are real. None of these fan theories are real. I think that's so funny, especially when Peter Gabriel just comes on at the end, and if you imagine it, like all the humans are actually really sad. I think that's great. Another really interesting one is from Harry Potter again, but this one is not confirmed, except that J.K. Rowling has acknowledged its existence and kind of talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is that the spell Avada Kedavra, which is basically an instant death spell that the wizards can use, is a direct, I guess, just juxtaposition to the word abracadabra used by Muggles.
Yeah.
And that in the time when they communed more, that the Muggles knew the word Avada Kedavra, but as kind of that separated and wizards went into hiding and stuff, that kind of just through translation and through time, it became abracadabra. And instead of being a negative word like Avada Kedavra is, abracadabra is more of like a healing word that is used kind of for fun magic instead of very negative.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of more. I don't subscribe to that theory. I would just say that it's kind of where maybe she got the inspiration from. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I'd agree. Then the other one is that the donkey from Shrek. Do you want to guess where the donkey is from in this specific fan theory?
I have no idea.
The kid that gets turned into a donkey from Pinocchio, that they are the same donkey because that kid is transformed and is able to talk and has a very similar voice to Eddie Murphy in Shrek, specifically his role of the donkey. And there's a fan theory that if you watch both back to back, that Shrek is actually a like spin-off of Pinocchio from a sub character.
No.
I love it. And then my last one is that Kevin from Home Alone is Jigsaw from the Saw franchise because the traps and the ingenuity used in all the Jigsaw movies are very similar. Some of them are actually almost identical to the traps that Macaulay Culkin used in Home Alone. So there's a big connection formed by fans there.
I mean...
And you know what? We're getting a new Jigsaw movie, so you know what? Maybe they'll reveal it. Maybe Macaulay Culkin's in it.
That'd be really weird. That's a fun one. That's when I'm like, oh, okay, that's cute. Like, you know,
it's okay for you.
Yeah,
you'll allow it.
There are two I want to highlight though, and see if you remember, if you know anything about them.
Sure.
Number one is that every Leonardo DiCaprio movie is connected.
Oh, interesting.
Like, and this is a completely fan. This isn't confirmed
sure.
at all. But like, I forget the exact order, but it goes from Titanic, because he drowns. And then
Yeah.
in Inception, he wakes up on the beach, and then like every
Oh,
movie
okay.
continues on this one person's story. It's not true.
Interesting.
It's just really funny to think about.
And that also reminds me, a buddy of mine, Joey, we in a college came up with this idea very similar that all Shia LaBeouf movies are interconnected, and we wanted to make a movie called The LaBeouf Theory, and somehow like relate Peanut Butter Falcon to Transformers, and like Honey Boy to like Even Stevens, and just like tie them up, which actually those two are related, but tie them in like in terms of chronological order. But that's so I love theories like that. I think they're so fun, and I think they came from Pixar's movies all being kind of tied
Yeah,
together, and now people are like all the movies with this thing in common are the same.
yeah. Which I think the Pixar one is kind of widely accepted, but
I think they've confirmed it. I think they release videos on like here's
there are
the
like certain
updated.
there are certain ones that are connected. It's not all of them in one world. It's like there's different
Sure.
levels of it. But the other theory, and this one's one of the really fun ones that I think heightens my enjoyment of both films, is the weird connection that the movie Snowpiercer
Oh yes,
is a sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I've watched that video, the long video, and
Yes.
it is fascinating how many pieces just line up like just enough that it's believable.
It's absolutely hilarious, and it heightens my enjoyment of both. I'll just say that.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I think that's to the point that kind of we started out with is that fan theories can be fun. There's a fun aspect to that. It's always existed since comic books were around, since books were around. People had these ideas of what was going to come out. Personally, though, this whole thing that happened with Last Jedi and Star Wars and kind of the big letdowns that even came from WandaVision, like you talked about, have really kind of made me steer away from fan theories. I'll listen to them and I'll kind of acknowledge that they're there, but I no longer allow those to get my expectations up at all because it ends up impacting the movie 90% of the time for the worse.
Yeah, I would say so. Especially the ones that come out before.
Yeah, I'd agree. And maybe that's the key. Maybe if the fan theories are welcomed after the movie when we're kind of more analyzing what exists and we're looking at clues and hidden details. But when we have nothing, how can you imagine what something's going to be from someone else? It just doesn't really line up in my book.
Absolutely.
But that's all I have for mine. Unless you have any more fan theories that you want to kind of dive into.
Not off the top of my head. I'm sure there's a whole library of them we could go through.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure I could probably come up with one for any movie you want to mention right now. That's kind of how they work.
I don't even want to push that right now. But yeah. So anything else?
No, that's it. That's it for this. Like I said, I just think, especially with like Black Widow and a couple of movies coming out that are definitely going to be really big, Spider-Man, and especially I guess specifically the Marvel movies, but also some of the Star Wars stuff that's coming out. I do think it's important to understand like the lore and stuff going on in the films, but definitely temper your expectations with all these fan theories going around. They can be more toxic than anything, and as much fun as it is, you can get too wrapped up in them and end up actually kind of shooting yourself in the foot when you watch the movie later. And that one person from Shia LaBeouf's movie Transformers 2 is not in Black Widow, like you thought he was going to be, that can really let you down. That's a fan theory I just made up.
Well, all right.
I had you already, though. You were too invested.
I was like, what are you talking about?
I got you already.
All right, but that's going to bring us to an end for this episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You can click down below to subscribe, like, all those wonderful things to make sure that you get all of our information. You can also follow us on social media. Where can they find us, Adrian?
The Drive Back Podcast, pretty much on everything, Instagram and Facebook. And we always post when we have new episodes. We always keep up to date, and we always we respond most, at least I do, on Instagram. I think Garrett handles pretty much the YouTube comments, but you can talk to both of us on either. If you go ahead, we get some good conversations going there. Like, for example, we had a quick conversation on Instagram about a fourth Back to the Future movie episode part thing, and that was pretty fun. So come have a chat with us. We'd love to hear your fan theories, even if they are wildly crazy or not true. Again, they're fun. Just take them with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I'd love to hear theories about how A Bug's Life is an allegory for pedophilia in the Catholic Church or something. I don't know. Just something.
And there's the ending to the episode.
But that's going to bring us to an end. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed our Mortal Kombat review, which came out recently. It will come out the weekend before this comes out. And other than that, stay tuned for more content coming, more videos, more podcast episodes. There's a podcast episode every Monday, and look forward to more YouTube content in the future. So thanks for joining us for the drive back, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Drive Back. Make sure to be on the lookout for new episodes every Monday, and make sure to follow us on social media.